Let's go. So let's keep it positive here now in terms of looking forward. What do you want to see? Right? There's things that are not going to change overnight. It's November 6th. What do you want to see these next 4 games, starting with Syracuse, that will make, aside from obviously we got to win the game, that's going to make you feel better about the direction of this program?
As I was saying, I'm going to say something very counterintuitive. Put the ball into Carson Beck's hands earlier in the game on early downs and actually run a full quarter or at least a quarter and a half of up-tempo spread and try to get up nice and early and actually be more wide open. I'm going to say this again. I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it's still apt. Do the Bill Walsh. Do not establish the run. Establish points and then run the ball late. Guys, I learned this a couple of years ago based on a video from a gentleman by the name of Keith Simons. He does a very good YouTube channel. He's a Miami fan, but he's an old school football coach. He has a resume. And he did a video explaining, guys, what's offensive balance? And I always hear balance. Well, you got to be 50-50 run pass. Yeah, maybe in 1985 that was considered balance. It's not. If you're going by just a run pass ratio, you don't actually understand modern day football. There's several ways to really define balance. In my view, balance is, can you run the ball when you want to and need to, and can you pass the ball anytime you want? That to me is like, for me, my definition of it. That's my core belief. Or what Mike Leach thought, and this is what Keith Simons was referring to. Mike Leach said, here's what balance is to me. I have 5 eligible receivers or ball handlers on each play, right? I want to make sure I spread the ball out as much as possible and get the ball a little bit more to my best guys. But every time I call an offensive play, one of those 5 guys is going to get the ball, but all of them will get the ball eventually as many times as they need and deserve. And that's it. And Mike Leach actually said, my perfect game plan, my perfect game where I said, man, I called a great game. I actually said, I never hand the ball off. Now, that's extreme, and I'm not asking for that, but that's what offensive balance is getting your best ball players the ball as many times as they need to out in space in an advantageous situation. It's not just, hey, we're going to throw it 3 times, but you know what? Let's just jam the ball up in the A gap for 1.5 yards each. Well, at that point, 3 runs, 3 passes. That's not really balance. It's not.
Mr. Prime said something I wanted to get to, but I appreciate your support. He says 3 and 4 wide receivers and rotate them out. I like having a lot of tight ends in the offense. Now, that's what we had last year, and it worked great. Number 1 offense in the country, and you still had your receivers getting action. The most underrated player, now that I look back on last year's offense, and this is very deep cut, but in terms of who I think we miss more than people would ever think, Cam McCormick.
Yeah.
Because if you look at good teams in the NFL, you look at good teams around the country, they use tight ends that can block. I mean, really block. They all have them. They're not the feature of the team. They're not the highest paid player on the team. But every team, look at pro, look at college, that has a lot of success, even the most innovative guys, they will have block first tight ends. And if you look at our team right now, we do not have a block first tight end. And on top of that, our receiving tight ends, either because of injury or ineffectiveness, are not giving us a dynamic presence. So even though I think that this offense in its true highest level is using a lot of tight ends, pounding the ball when it needs to, and really having that physical presence, which you saw last year, if you don't have those guys, is it time to just say, all right, let's get more receivers on the field and do it that way?
Last I checked, Danny, there's no rule that says if you go air raid or full-blown spread in the first 3 quarters, that you're not then allowed, after building a lead, to be physical and run the ball inside with the big lead. I'm just telling you, establishing the run when you can't actually do it is one of the worst game plans in football consistently. That was one of my problems with Coker during his run as the offensive coordinator. Hey, look, if we were churning out 7-8 yards a carry, you would never hear me complain. Guys, we're not. And here's the other thing. Danny, as I'm watching highlights of these other games, these condensed versions, I'm catching up to everything. I am seeing a lot of explosive plays being created by all different teams, either running the ball or throwing it, obviously. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, these teams do not, and I get it, we don't have Andre Johnson, we don't have Santana Moss, but we're solid. I would be willing to bet.
We got Malachi Tony, though.
We have Malachi, who's a slot, though. He's a slot, so it's a little bit different. But how many explosive plays are we actually creating? I can't even remember a run play from where we hand the ball off to a running back that's busted for 50, 60 yards. And by game 8 or 9, you should have at least a couple of them.
Yep. Rocco's talking about rushing explosives too. I think you're going to see this week. And look, Fletcher's out. It seems like. Not for the whole season, but he's going to be out for at least this game.
He was limping off pretty bad the other day. Seeing it in person, it looked like it was not good. But
the thing about him is he's been by far our best running back this year. I don't think it's been close. I know some people say Marty Brown, but if you look at the stats and just to me the flow of the game, when Fletcher's in, we usually move the ball pretty decently. When he's out, major drop off. That's what I've seen. But now he's gone. So you have Lyle, who's more explosive than Fletcher as far as being able to break big plays in a vacuum. And then Jared Pringle, who we've been asking for on this show to get more opportunities, kind of the next man up. So I'm wondering if we can get some explosive plays out of this running back room, especially against a team like Syracuse, who's going to be a soft landing for a lot of these guys. But you watched the Canes for a long time. The explosive running game has been a hallmark of this program going back to like Foreman.
Yeah, Otis Anderson. I look at this offense and I'm like, geez, it's not a fun watch. It really is methodical. That's what I've kind of labeled Mario the methodical. And I get it. I understand what he's trying to do, but certain years you have to say, you know what, this is not our style. And guys, I hate to say it, our offensive line, which is going to have several guys, more than just a 2 or 3, that room's going to have some guys who can play in the National Football League. We look at the body types. Mirabel is a really good developer, but this may end up being our most overrated unit of this particular season. You cannot have that many penalties, especially of the pre-snap variety, and say that's a top 5 unit. It has not been as good as advertised. That is the reality.
Yeah, I'd say you're right. And I said that like after the Notre Dame game and the Florida game, I said this was the best offensive line in the country. I don't think too many national people disagreed with that. But then what you've seen since then, the pass blocking has been elite. I mean, Carson Beck has barely gotten touched. I don't want to jinx him, but I mean, I don't think he's been touched once off the left side with Markel Bell. So that part's been great. The penalties have been catastrophic. And then the running game has not been good. And I've talked to people. I did a long post on CanesInSight just called What I'm Hearing and Seeing. And it was not just my thoughts from watching, but talking to people outside the program, NFL, college, people who have studied this team. And they said, yes, teams are putting guys in the box to stop the run. Yes, there's predictability, extreme predictability on short yardage and things like that. Your passing game is not as explosive. That doesn't scare defenses to move back. But on a straight run blocking standpoint, man on man, we're not doing a good enough job. Center being the biggest culprit, left guard probably being the second biggest culprit, and then Inez Cooper, at least lately, not playing to where you need him to be based on what he's been for you and what you kind of placed him as one of your better players. So I would have to agree while saying, yes, the pass blocking I think is still elite as it gets, probably the best in the country. The other stuff, way down the line.
And I also think, again, an offensive line, there's 5 guys. There's 2 tackles, 2 guards, and a center, and you might have an attached tight end. So that's 6, 5 to 6. If they are consistently being asked, hey, guys, see that 8-9 man scrum? We're going to run the ball. You're not doing them any favors either. Again, I just want a little bit more. What I want to see against Syracuse, Danny, a little bit more or a lot more variety. And this means variety can we throw the ball a little bit more or a lot more on first down? We cannot be afraid of Carson Beck. I get it. He's been a little loose with the football. However, if we are going to shut this down to this degree, it's going to be unwatchable.
Yeah. No, it's
Gonna be.
Trying to keep it positive here, Pete.
So, like, what are your expectations? Like, do you think we're gonna get this done? We've November. We've lost in bunches every single year, I believe. I don't think we've ever gone through November without double-digit losses in the month. I could be wrong. Maybe the turnover chain year.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I guess
It feels like double digit after after all these years, but yeah.
But yeah, and like, I guess we lost the conference championship game the first week of December instead of November. But just it's always multiple losses this time of year, and we're not playing well. So do you think we will go 4-0 and get this thing done?
My view is this, and this seems to be the consensus among the people that I've talked to. The best case scenario is they go 3-1 because that game at Pitt, and they have a new hotshot quarterback, Mason Heinschelt's going to run around, and it could be 15 degrees by that time in Pittsburgh. I think a lot of that depends on, are we actually playing for anything at that point? Okay, that does matter. Also, CJ Bailey and NC State, you saw what they did last week.
Yeah.
Right? They're feeling good about themselves, but at least that game's at home. Most people believe we're going to end up 3-1, maybe 2-2. That's the consensus that I'm getting. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I don't know how you have a ton of confidence given the history and trajectory. The CJ Bailey one scares me because he's playing at a high level. He's hard to sack. He can extend plays. He has a great running game with both backs running very, very well. He has options at skill position. It's just a good offense, man. That's going to be a tough one. And he's going to be playing at his highest ability. That doesn't mean you can't force him into mistakes, but he'll be locked in. I think he should be our next quarterback, him or Lenora Sellers, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that's a scary one, and Pitt's a scary one. So we're the better team in both. Are we going to win either of them? I don't know.
That's never been a guarantee.
That's a fact. Let me ask you one more question, Steve. In terms of the quarterback position, I think Carson Beck's playing, pretty good, save for some bad mistakes, which is a big caveat. One of the reasons this running game maybe is not as dynamic as it could be is the fact that when you don't have to worry about him keeping the ball.
Yeah.
That's just not a factor. And there's offenses that are effective without that wrinkle, that element. But I wonder what this offense could be in the future, 26, 27, 28 with a running quarterback.
Yeah.
And a quarterback, there's a quarterback that can run for yards and what different element that would make. Like just going forward with Miami's quarterback room, what would you like to see under Mario Cristobal?
Danny, on that tweet that I wrote on Saturday night in Dallas at the Hotel Motel Residence Inn, which got a lot of traction. I was actually surprised by that. I mentioned that moving forward, I would like, and again, I still want a guy that can complete routine passes. Okay. Because I still think that has to be a key element, but I do think Miami needs a guy that is a threat at the mesh point and that can consistently put defenders in conflict. We all know the names that are out there, but when you're right there and that quarterback has that ball, that backside defender just can't routinely crash. That absolutely creates a natural running lane that really right now is not available. Beck actually kept it one time for about an 8-yard gain. With other quarterbacks, it could have been a 20-yard gain. And that is the one thing where I'm really intrigued by Darion Coleman. I know his size is an issue, but he's going to be in shotgun anyway. He's got a great arm. Like he could sling it, but his twitch and his athleticism and his ability to run around we're kind of missing that, right? But I'm with you, Danny. In today's college football, I believe that mobility and athleticism at quarterback, it is not a luxury. It may be a necessity.
I'm trying to find your tweet, which did go viral. I got it in like 40 group chats.
Steve is humble, man. Steve, you know you're a needle mover in this Canes community,
I'm
man.
I'm just a fan. I don't try to be anything more. And you know what's interesting? So when you're at the game, I don't have my laptop with me. Okay, so people were asking me, Steve, when's your tweet going out? And I'm thinking, oh my God. It's like, and I kept getting more and more, like, as I'm leaving the stadium, people are saying, Steve, I can't wait to read what you have to say. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to do this. So I actually watched a few games, Florida against Georgia, and I was watching Virginia, Cal, and there was another game, Texas Tech, Kansas State. So I'm watching, I said, all right, I got to go back to the hotel, get ready for dinner. And so I flip on the laptop, and I'm just looking at this blank screen on my email. I'm like, oh God, like, Petey, you're the youngest guy, but didn't it feel like that? It felt to me. Haven't you ever had that book report you didn't want to do, and it was late Sunday night, and you got to wake up in about 7 hours, and that book report is due Monday, and you're just like, ah, geez.
Yeah, they got ChatGPT for that now, Steve.
Yeah.
The kids don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, so there it is.
Took me about 20 minutes to find it. You're a chronic retweeter, a serial retweeter.
I am.
All across the spectrum, too. I was learning about politics. I was learning about boxing, learning about college football. It was a journey.
I tweet a lot.
To get to that tweet.
Danny, I've said anyone that follows me, be careful. You better know what you're getting into. I may flood your timeline like Johnstown. Okay.
So yeah, it was a great tweet though. I got it sent in a million group chats. People were passing that on. Olivia Newton John, R.I.P. Man, you talk about JoJo Trader. Yeah, that was.
We found something, guys. I get it. He bobbled the ball. I would have kept feeding him. I would have said, JoJo, we're on a run here. Get rid of that play. Let's do something. And again, I don't know if he was benched. I don't know if they're punishing him, but my view was, okay, let's take him out for a series. But it reminded me, this kind of reminds me of the old Michael Irvin story in Detroit. Story time with Steve again. Let's do a good story. So 1992, a young Michael Jerome Irvin on the throes of beginning his Hall of Fame run. He comes late to a game in Dallas. He actually misses the team flight in Dallas. And Jimmy Johnson is just like quivering with anger. And Troy Aikman's like, where's playmaker? They actually see Michael Irvin's car driving up. And Troy goes, Coach, Jimmy, he's here, Jimmy. And Jimmy goes, close the door. Close the door. So they leave without Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin's actually said, I had to rebook my own flight. I had to fly commercial, and people are wondering, what are you doing here? So he gets to the team hotel, and he just trudges in. And the one guy he really feared outside of Troy was Jimmy. And he said, hey, Coach. And he goes, Michael, I just want you to know I'm very disappointed in you as a team leader now. But you're going to be – I'm going to put you on a little suspension. You're not going to start. You're going to play. So they go out to the Silverdome. They're playing Detroit. First drive of the game. So it's Alvin Harper and then Kelvin Martin, little Kmart, who's really a third receiver. That drive looks awful because they're loading 9 men in the box. The drive looks awful, and they're getting off the field. Troy Aikman goes right over to the phone, and he goes, Norv, what the are we doing? We can't run this off without Michael Irvin. What? And so everyone's cussing him out. The offensive line goes, hey, we can't block 9 guys. Emmitt Smith goes, hey, guys, what are we doing here? So Norv Turner flips on the headsets to Jimmy. He goes, hey, Jimmy, everyone's going to cuss me out. They'll never cuss you out. But you have to understand, I'm getting all the heat for your decision. Now, Jimmy, we've made our point. We've made our point. Are we trying to win the game? We're trying to win the game. So so Jimmy goes, okay. He looks right over. He goes, Michael, get back in the game. His suspension was 3 plays. He had 8 catches for about 160 yards. There's a lesson to be learned. Not all punishments need to be punitive. God, Jimmy was good. Story time, Steve. This is great job, Peter. I love it.